Hello, and welcome to Burnoutology Live. It has been a couple of weeks since I've done any of these with you, probably for reasons that I'm going to discuss with my desk today. But welcome. Today we are talking about illness, chronic illness after burnout. And for those of you that have already registered live, you know who my fabulous guest is for today. But I'm going to start with a quick intro, and I'm going to kind of caveat a bit of this conversation for today. We are live across, we should be live across YouTube and LinkedIn. We all know LinkedIn is wank at the moment, so we'll see what happens there. But for everything else, we're just going to go with it. So hello, good afternoon. It's Thursday. We do Burnoutology Live on Thursdays. My name is Kelly Swingler. I'm the Burnoutologist, TEDx speaker, author and founder of the Burnout Academy. And I'm now up to almost 700 leaders that I have coached through burnout. And in addition, over the last kind of 12 months, I have then trained 117 coaches from 14 different countries in the Burnout Academy, which I'm hugely proud of. But all these people, again, are like helping to raise the standard for burnout awareness and education. So before I welcome my fabulous guest to the screen today, I just want to do a little bit of caveat. We're talking about chronic illness after burnout. But actually, my guest and I, we're not medical professionals. And I get told this repeatedly in my DMs, right? You're not qualified to talk about this stuff. You're not a medical professional. I am qualified to talk about this stuff. But when it comes to specifics and some of the things that we may or may not cover today, right? I don't know where a conversation is going to go. But I'm really clear that whilst I have been training and researching and living and studying this for well over a decade, we're not medical professionals. So what we are going to be talking about today, and I think we both very much agree that the chronic conditions that we now live with were either underlying conditions that were exacerbated as a result of burnout, or burnout and the impact that burnout had on our nervous systems is what has created the chronic illnesses that we both live with. And some of this is what we're going to be talking about today. But we are not medically trained. We're not medical professionals. If we talk about anything that we do to live with our own conditions, so for example, one of my conditions, I have chosen not to medicate. That's my choice. So anything that we talk about today, anything that we cover is based on our own lived experience. We're not giving hints. We're not giving tips. We're not saying you need to do this or you need to go and do that. I'm really clear on that. So I just want to kind of set the scene of that as we go through today's conversation. So that's kind of the disclaimers out of the way, right? And the serious stuff out of the way. So if you are joining the chat live, please do say hi. Let us know that you are there. Pauline, I can see you. So hello. If anybody else is there watching us live, please do say hi, because otherwise it gets very lonely on screen. And I mean, we can talk about this forever, but please do let us know if you're there. Give us a hello. Let us know that you are there. And if you've got any questions as we go through today's chat, just like pop them in the chat as they come up. We'll answer them either as we go through or we'll answer them at the end. But I love these conversations to be as interactive as possible. Right? If you're giving up any of your time to get involved in this conversation, I genuinely want it to be as useful and as helpful for you as possible. So that's all the kind of boring intro. And I suppose if you like, my little caveats and my disclaimers out of the way. So today I am joined by the bright pink and rainbow fueled founder of People Sorted, the queen of the HR geeks, creator of the HR Find Your Awesome program, the one who's turning HR from beige to brilliant with all of the colour, all of the rainbows, all of the kindness. And I'm very pleased to say that she's also my bestest friend. So, hey, Hartley, how are you?
Hey. I'm all right, thanks. I'm all right.
All right. Well, we're going to talk about that today. But I suppose also somewhat ironically, we should probably mention, we've had this chat, honestly, in our diaries for weeks. And again, I think probably along the theme of what we'll be talking about today, we did have to cancel quite a lot because chronic illness got the better of both of us. And we just can't do it. We cancelled an event together in Newcastle, and then we were like, well, if we're not going to Newcastle, let's do this event because this will be really topical. And then none of us had it in us to be able to do it. And then the week we were going to do it, you'd been kicked off LinkedIn. And I was like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. If LinkedIn don't want Michelle's face, then we're not doing it then either. So
then we don't do it. Yeah.
It's been a while,
It really
right?
has. It really has.
We are here, and it's always beautiful to see your face. Although we had 3 spaces last week, didn't we, in London?
Yes, that was very enjoyable. I feel like that our little London trip filled my cup for a good 4 or 5 days. Like I was buzzing for days after we hung out. It was lush.
I'll meet you there tomorrow then as well, shall I?
Yes.
We'll go back. We'll do that. Right. So Michelle and I are going to talk about chronic illness. So I'm just gonna pass over to Michelle in a minute. If you're new here, you'll probably know I can talk about this stuff literally till Christmas non-stop. I do want to give Michelle some of the floor. So in a moment, I'm going to ask her just to give us a little bit of background about kind of burnout, really, and impact that it has on her body. We've got lots of lovely chat scenes. So we've got Pauline, who says, good to see us both. We've got Alex Stroud. Hello. We've got, I don't know why it does this all the time. Whoever the LinkedIn user is that's given us a hola from Lanzarote. Hello. I can't see your name, but Lanzarote sounds amazing. Thank you very much for joining us. Ben says, looking forward to the chat. Hopefully we don't disappoint, Ben. Thank you very much. Natasha says, hello, Natasha. And Jenny has given us a good day from down under, which we'll take.
Yes,
so,
Jenny.
G'day, Jenny. Thank you very much all for joining us. We've got Louise from Brighton. She says, lovely to see you in person last week, Michelle. So
not you, those fingers. That was me, just me, not you.
I just said last week, Michelle. Don't take any credit for me seeing people. I'll do the online stuff. This is how it's going to go, Pete. This is how it's going to go.
Hashtag dance.
Right, let's get going. So, Michelle, my lovely, lovely friend. So, we both hit really bad burnout. I live with 3 chronic conditions, 2 physical, 1 mental. You are also living with chronic conditions. As I said in the kind of intro, like we both have the belief either this stuff was underlying in the first place, but actually our belief is that as a result of burnout, everything that happened to our nervous system, so brain, body, literally everything, this is what has either made these conditions worse or just kind of created them. So, I mean, if you don't want to share exact details, don't share exact details, but like, what did burnout do to you, and what are you now living with?
Yeah, I think it's interesting, isn't it? I know we've spoken about this before. Burnout for me used to be my coping strategy, right? So when I was working, I would get to that very brink point when I was working. I'm still working now, by the way, just differently. When I was in corporate,
she doesn't. She just sits in that office with a headset on all day. That's all she does.
I just dick about on LinkedIn, and then get banned. When I was in corporate, basically burnout was my coping strategy. So I would get to the point of losing it, and then I'd stop, and then I'd recover, and then I do it all over again. And I just thought that was what people did. I just thought that's how it worked. And then it finally properly got me in 2020. And in 2020, I would say I had 3 periods of burnout where I just wrecked myself. And part of the reason for the 3 was that I didn't really give myself time and energy to recover after the first one. And so what happened was it just effectively topping up my burnout cup. So actually you could probably argue that I was in 9 months of burnout rather than 3 different times. But each time I thought I'd nailed it. In terms of chronic conditions, interestingly, mine had been around for a long time, I think, as in, through that period of coping strategy burnout. So it was only in 2021, so very early 2021, that I realized that something just wasn't right physically. And I wasn't sure if that was because burnout had suddenly created this mind-body connection that I decided I didn't have, or it just was always been there and it just kind of flared up. So I ended up initially in 2021 with a thyroid condition called Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune disorder. And that was created by burnout effectively. So having that constant fight or flight going on in my body meant that my body was just wrecked and then started to attack itself, which is what Hashimoto's is. Your body is attacking your thyroid. Yeah. Interestingly, what I didn't realize, your thyroid controls a lot of stuff. When you get a thyroid diagnosis, that is serious shit, because it controls your breathing, your hormones, how your body processes all your food. It's just ridiculous. So this is the thing that lives here. It's quite important, turns out. So I was managing and living with that, and then was still feeling really horrendous. So this is still right from 2020. So still feeling really horrendous. And in my head, I was like, this can't just be a thyroid thing. There must be something else. And then I was under a rheumatologist for a massive chunk of time because they thought I had rheumatoid arthritis. I have some osteoarthritis, but I also eventually this year got diagnosed with fibromyalgia, which is a horrendous chronic pain and exhaustion condition. And like the thyroid one, it's not something that's curable. It's something that you can manage through a lot of different things. And I always feel like there were like little, I don't know if you had this, but like little health warning signs before I hit that burnout. So things like I was diagnosed with IBS in 2015. Things like, did you know hay fever is an autoimmune condition? So things like hay fever. I'd never had hay fever as a kid, suddenly randomly now have hay fever. So things like that were my little warning signs that I just didn't really pay attention to. And rosacea, I've got rosacea. So I've got really funny, lumpy, bumpy red skin that flares up when I'm stressed. Again, another autoimmune condition that I just didn't clock was a thing. So I think there are lots of bits I wasn't listening to. And then now I feel like my body is making me pay attention. And when we've had these conversations is where I get to a point, and I know you're similar, where there are days where I just can't get out of bed. And my body has physically forced me to stop because I didn't stop for all those years up until 2020. And I think that's my kind of big lesson. I do talk positively about burnout because it brought me back to myself. But in that sense, I would very much happily never have burned out. Thanks.
And that's always a kind of warning sign for me as well. And I think again, you will know, right? We were kind of talking about it at the time, right? So that guy that kind of came into my messages, I think I'd put a post out like, no, I don't want anybody to ever get to burnout, right? And this is the big thing for me, right? It's all about prevention, every single thing. Now, of course, for many of us, prevention just sounds like a load of crap, right? Because burnout's never going to happen to me. I'm never going to be the one to do it. And this was years ago now, but I put this post out that like, this is why nobody should get to burnout. And this guy had come into my DMs basically to like, why would you want to stop anybody? Like, clearly you're really successful. Just like stop interfering, right? If you want to help people as they come out the other side, do that. But like, stop talking about prevention. And I was like utterly soapbox. So he and I were having many arguments in my DMs that seemed to go on for a very, very long time. Which seemed to go on for a very, very long time. But I then kind of actually, I'm gonna use this for my first TEDx, because if this is the thinking, right, just stop other people going through it. And we do talk about prevention, because they're going to be this thing that happens to everybody else. But I suppose, like you, I ignored every single warning sign. On the days that I literally cannot get out of bed, cannot function, like my body's just like not playing ball today, my brain is just not playing ball today. Again, you will know maybe more so than kind of anybody else that's in the chat. I've been like from October, actually I'm thinking about it because I was thinking about your geek meet last year. That's when I rocked up in that black dress. So I was like, I'm totally bloated. I'm in a lot of pain. So actually I thought it was like October that this pain had kicked in, but actually it was your geek meet, which was Harry's birthday.
That's the first week of September. That
was 6th of September. So and like this huge flare up. So like daily pain, like over the last few months, the A&E admittances, the not being able to get up off the floor, literally like laying in the fetal position on the floor, rocking because I cannot deal with the pain every day. The fact that I've had to strip all of my work back, the fact that I've been unable to move, the fact that I've had to cancel events with you, we've had to cancel our meetups, we've had to cancel loads of stuff. I've had to cancel and move work, which I like just never do. I've had to cancel like social functions. I've had to cancel time with family. Really, really had to, strip a lot back. Admit it, and this is again, some of this is the toxic patterning, and I have rested a lot, as you know. I've also still done loads of stuff, like I've got all my book chapters in, I've redone my website, relaunched my podcast, right? I've still done a load of stuff, but it's not actually been like the work stuff that I would have wanted to do. And so I think when I was kind of thinking about this particular podcast, and just from the live rather, with the conversations that you and I have, it is what that looks like. Because people, again, we just assume burnout is still a bit tired. More and more of us, as you said, right, from an autoimmune perspective, like even the conditions that I live with, autoimmune, 2 of them at least, are now being seen as autoimmune conditions. It's all this stuff to do with the nervous system, right? All being caused by stress, but it's actually the bits of like chronic illness that people don't see, like people don't see you and I unable to get out of bed. People don't see us bawling our eyes out. People don't see the changes that we've had to make to our work schedules, to our lives. They don't see even like clothes, right? Having to dress differently, having to always be planning stuff in advance, right? So even for you and I to be away last week, well, the event was Thursday, but we both traveled there Wednesday. It was like an hour away from home, right?
Yeah.
But we've traveled Wednesday, traveled back Friday for a one-day event on the Thursday, and we've then really done nothing at the start of the week.
Yeah, we had to pre-rest to then go to the event.
We then rest on the Wednesday when we arrived, to then be able to do the event on the Thursday, to then rest on the Friday before we travel home, to then rest on the Saturday when we got home. Like just that in itself can be really bloody exhausting, because we're never in the now, right? It's always like, if I do this conversation, right? If I do this conversation now, what does the rest of my day need to look like to allow me to do this conversation? What does tomorrow need to look like? And I think that's kind of where I suppose I thought about this conversation, because that's the stuff that people don't see. And again, I think for both of us with the stuff that we do, more so you, right? But I think, rocking up with the rainbows every day and the brightness of personality, but people don't see the other side of that.
Exactly.
And so maybe, I don't know, maybe that's kind of where we go. I don't know if anybody's got any questions, or, if you've got questions, if this is something that you're also living with, right, let us know in the chat. But if there's questions, if you know people that kind of experiencing this, just kind of let us know. But I don't know if you wanted, I'm kind of happy to share a bit more about mine, but again, I don't want to keep hogging. But from your perspective, like, what's chronic illness for you like to live with?
Oh God, I wouldn't even, at the moment, the way that I'm feeling, I wouldn't even describe it as living. Like, I just feel like I'm broadly existing on the daily. So for example, I mean, I know we've spoken about this on the text, but this week has been the first week for the entire year where I have had more than 2 days in a row of feeling okay. And that is with today feeling like probably a 6 out of 10. Like, so that it's not even okay, it's enough okay. And
I mean, which is obviously because you spent 3 days with me last week.
Obs. But that, like you say, people don't see that. People don't realise that to attend an event, I'm having 2 days pre-rest, 2 days post-rest. That is a week out of my diary. But what they see is shiny Michelle turning up at an event, face buns and cat ears, jobs are good. And like that's what people see. And I don't mind that. I don't particularly want like sympathy, but I think it's that's why we are such fierce burnout warriors, right? Because we don't want it to happen to other people. And it drives me absolutely bananas when I see people doing what I used to do, just push and push and push and push, drop, push and push and push and push, drop. And I hate it because I just don't want this to happen to anybody else. 5 years ago, I was somebody that didn't even take paracetamol because I just hated taking medication. Nowadays, I've got a bloody a rainbow Dosset box. I've got a Dosset box of all my medication that I have to take every day across two different sets that have to happen every day. And I just think, I don't want this for other people when it's something that can be prevented so easily by leadership, environment, and knowing yourself. And it drives me bananas. It really drives me bananas. And I can see Alex has dropped in the chat. I've got fibro brought on by work, burnout, and personal trauma. Yeah, absolutely. And flare-up horrendous. Yeah, it's awful. And people don't understand. Like, even my mum doesn't understand. Like, she'll message me if I say to her I'm flaring. She'll message me every day consecutively and say, "Are you better yet? Are you better yet? Are you better yet?" No, mum, it's a flare. This is life now. This isn't how, this is how I operate now. And I'm not going to tell you again because you don't need to keep chasing me up. But it's that thing where people think, "Oh, well, you'll get better." Well, not really. No, it's shades of grey from exhausted, can't get out of bed, to feeling all right enough to put makeup on. Like, that's my limit right now. That's where I'm at.
Yeah. And like I said, the stuff that people don't see, right? You and I rocked up at this event on Thursday, colourful dresses, kind of do what we were. But even like for me on the, I don't know what night it was. Was it Tuesday? I think I said to you, like, I'd messaged Laura. So the event that we'd gone to was run by Laura Brunton, Ignited Woman. Ironic. We're both like
smouldering women.
Put up pictures, just like, I don't know how we can do this, but right, we can rock the colour, right? So we kind of did the dressing, even in the morning. It's like, don't know if this fabric's going to be right. I don't know if this material is like all of that.
Yes.
I'd messaged Laura on the Tuesday night, and I have never ever done this before. Right? Ordinarily, I would just have rocked up and dealt with it, but I was like, I can't. Like, I need, particularly with where I'm at the minute, like I need a seat at the back of the room. I need to be like near the loos in case I need to go. I need to be like not sat in the middle of a row in case I need to move or I need to fidget, and then I'm going to be too worried about the person next to me. And even again, just that mindset of, oh my God, what if I'm sat in the middle of the row and I have to stand and I don't want to disturb anybody, and then I'm going to look like a,
and I can't get out
and at the back and all of that stuff. And I messaged Laura. I'm like, is it like, I need a chair at the back of the room. And bless her, we walked in, didn't we, on Friday? But I mean, you couldn't miss my chair, right? It's like seat reserved for Kelly Swingler, right? On the back. She put it on the front. But I was really great. But I was really proud of myself, firstly, for asking.
Yes,
in all
exactly
of the years that I've lived with this, I never have done. I just rock up because I don't want the attention. Don't want anybody asking questions. I'll just mask up. I'll paint the face on, and regardless of how much pain I'm in, I'll just deal with it anyway. I'm not prepared to do that anymore. So even asking Laura, can I have a reserved seat, was a huge thing for me.
Yeah.
Of course, I rock up, it's got my name over it. So, I mean, all throughout the day, wasn't it? Everyone's like, all the, what makes you, hey, VIP, like, what makes you VIP? And I'm just, and for some people, I was just like, well, because I am. For other people, I was like, chronic illness, and this is where I need to be. And I spent most of the time standing. I think what was quite funny, I think when we got the photos through, wasn't it? I was like, I just look like I've got permanent RBF. You don't understand what RBF is, anybody. I probably can't say it on LinkedIn, though we have swear before. That would be resting bitch face. And that's pretty much what I look like. And I love the event, the energy, everybody was amazing, everybody was lovely. But again, like trying to get was I sitting uncomfortably? Was I standing uncomfortably? And again, that's the stuff that a lot of people don't see, because you can rock up in a colourful dress, bit of lipstick, hair done. And the assumption is, because again, a lot of the stuff that we live with, and even I've said to you, haven't I, with some of the A&E admittances that I've had to have recently, even being told, like, you don't look ill. Yeah. Like, I don't know what you want me to do. Like, do you want an arm falling off?
Yeah.
Shall
I rub my face up a bit?
Like, what do you want? Like, I don't know what you want me. I don't exactly know what you want me to do. Like, you want me to look ill in order for you to take me seriously? Yeah. But it's that as well, isn't it? Because again, with what we live with, it's invisible.
Exactly.
And we have learned to paint the face on. Yeah, because people don't see. And even sometimes, when we've had like, we know each other's signs now. And like Kirsty's event in November, wasn't it? Like, again, I was really, really struggling. And at the end of the day, well, I think we got for drinks afterwards, hadn't we, upstairs? And somebody came to talk to me. And I think that's the first time I ever was like, you were just like, Kelly is going to sit down. If you want to speak to her, she sat over there. And I was like, okay, fine. But I wouldn't have said it, because I'm like, oh, no, I know. Once I've spoken to them. And you have, like, you show up a lot. And I know, some of it, I know the signs. Some of it, I know we talk every day about it anyway.
Yeah.
But you still turn up for a lot of stuff on days that, again, a lot of people just wouldn't be able to get out of bed.
Yeah, exactly that.
What's the payoff on that for you?
You mean positive or negative?
Either. What's the payoff?
So, there's something about, so this, we've hung out a lot, we're mates. So I do get a lot of joy from talking to, like, my people. So if I'm around a load of HR people, it brings me massive joy.
That's me also.
So that brings me a lot of joy. So I find it really hard to turn up to stuff and not be 100% Michelle. I also find it really hard to show up to stuff and think, oh, I'm going to sit down. I went to the big festoon earlier on in the year, and I told the group that I was with that I've newly diagnosed with fibro and I might need to sit down or step out or do something depending on how I feel. And my rheumatologist had said, I need to get a stick. If you're going to stand for a chunk of time, you need to get a stick. And I still haven't got a stick, because there's that internal, like, oh, I don't want that because people will ask me about it, or people will make judgments, or I'll look stupid, or I'll feel bad. And so I've never done it. But the reality is I'm breaking myself doing things like that just to have yes, a cup filled day, like it is enjoyable, but it's hard work. It's physically hard work. And of course, because we're so used to masking, it's easy to put the face on. And then as soon as you get in the car or a cab or the tube, you can just kind of go, oh God, I feel so sore. And you get to that place where you're in a lot of pain. So I think that, and that's the danger, right? Because you end up back in that burnout space where you've put the face on and you just ignore all the signs because you put your face on. And so, like you, I'm trying to get to a place where I'm telling people about it. I'm trying to get to a place where I'm asking for help, or this pre-resting lark is very helpful, but God, it takes a lot of time. Making sure that I get the right transport that works for me. All of those things. And I think to come back to your point in the beginning, I've massively changed up how I work. Like I used to do a lot of days out delivering team building days and insights days and stuff, and I've just cut all of that. And it doesn't mean that I won't do it again because I love it, but I've had to really, really rein that back in from where I was even this time last year. So I think it's that, and I know we've spoken about this too, it's that constant learning that's exhausting, like that constant, here's another limit that I didn't know about, or here's another thing that I can't do.
And I think some of that learning as well, because even that's constant, isn't it? Because even like on the days that we think we've smashed it, or the weeks that we think we've smashed it, like we were messaging like this morning or yesterday, weren't we? You're like, I've had 2 brilliant days this week, and I'm like, that's amazing, like brilliant. But it's not even like you can say, okay, so what did you do to allow you to have 2 really good days last week, right? How can you replicate that for next week? What could you do to have 3 really good days next week, right? It's not even that's happening, because again, there's hormonal changes, there's weather changes, there's seasonal changes, there's daylight hour changes, there's heat changes, even all of that sort of stuff becomes a real bloody nightmare. Because like on the weeks where you think I've smashed this, right, I've had a really brilliant week this week, and the next week you're like, no, can't move, can't get out of bed, can't do anything.
But
you're like, it's the same week, and I don't like eating the same thing. And you go through everything, right? What have I eaten? What have I drank? Who have I spent time with? How many hours have I done this for? How many hours of sleep have I got? I'm tracking my sleep. I'm tracking my food. I'm tracking this. I'm tracking this. I'm tracking this. But there's just no bloody reason for it.
Yes, exactly.
And then the clocks will change, or the weather will change, or the season will change, or you you have one late night where you're maybe like 25 minutes out of bed, like late out of bed, and you're like, what? Like,
I'll be paying for this tomorrow.
And so even that, it's not even like we can necessarily learn from. We'll just do this week what you've done next week, Michelle, and you'll have another 2 brilliant days. Like, it just doesn't happen.
Jobbed. No, that's not how it is. And I think it's the same with the original thyroid condition that I had, right? Where it's the inconsistency that makes it so bloody hard, because there isn't rhyme or reason to it. And like you said, you almost get like obsessive about being really rigid and really structured and really sensible and really exactly the same. Like I got to the point where I have exactly the same food every single day, because I'm like, I can't afford to have anything that's going to mess me up. But the reality is, it doesn't make a difference. It just doesn't. And there are too many variables to measure, and there are too many things to be worrying about. Like, you just have to live every day as you arrive at it. Like, and that's hard. That is hard. As somebody who's like an organized, go-getting, ambitious human, that is hard, really hard. Where if I'm having a shit day, I have to cut stuff and I have to rest. And in between sessions, I have to make sure I've got buffer time. In that buffer time, I might nap. Like, that's just how it goes. It's just, it's horrendous. It's horrendous.
And that is one thing that you do brilliantly that I can't. You are a napper. I'm just like, I need to be in bed by 6 o'clock tonight because I just can't do it anymore. So there is that. Can we maybe, because I think the masking is a really interesting point, right? So I think pre-burnout for both of us, whether it was illness related or whether it was burnout related, we both got really amazing at masking anyway, right?
It's like my superpower.
You've got more than that as a superpower. But we are both superpower maskers. But also, I think sometimes if we there's never, like you said, you've had 2 better days this week, right? But they're not normal days.
No.
And so even from that perspective, like, we will, and you and I both talk a lot again, right? Show up as your best self. You talk a lot about, authenticity, like being your best, like awesome self, being 1% more you every day, all of that sort of stuff. And at the same time, because we'll both talk about, like, masking takes a lot of energy anyway. And also, if you're masking, you're not showing up as your true self.
Word. Yeah.
And yet, if we did not have days where we did not mask, like we'd never leave the house. We'd never leave the house.
We'd never get anything done. Yeah.
We wouldn't be showing up on stuff like this. We wouldn't be doing podcast interviews. We wouldn't be doing webinars. We wouldn't be doing anything. Because actually, and I had this the other week, Pauline, and I know he's with us. Pauline joined me for the 2-day Burnout Academy. I did the 5-day train the trainer a couple of weeks ago. And I had been, like, I'd taken a month off, literally a month, to prepare myself to do it, because there were so many reasons that I wanted to deliver it, right? It's a milestone in terms of, like, the next time I go to see the consultant, hopefully get this operation date. But I wanted to be like a brilliant human that week, right? I wanted to be normal. I wanted to feel like I was doing my best work again. I wanted to do the work that mattered. I wanted to do the work that was important. I literally had to take every single day in 90-minute chunks. That's how I got through every single day. It was in 90-minute chunks. Now, it did energize me. I felt amazing. I felt fantastic. I did it. Feedback has been absolutely awesome. Training was fabulous. All of that kind of stuff. And yet at the same time, there was still an element of masking in order to get me through that week. Because if I hadn't done, it's like, if I hadn't turned it on, there's no way I would have got through that full week. And I know we both occasionally have to do that, which I know, again, for the values driven humans that we are, right? Sometimes that feels icky, because we can't be like, unmask and be your best self, and then we're like, I've got the mask on,
sat in our pants.
Again, sometimes it is, because if we didn't do that, and it is a coping mechanism and it is a safety mechanism, but it is also, I need to live today, right? I need to do this thing that's going to light me up today. So how do you, I know what I do in terms of that, but I suppose, how do you kind of reconcile? How do you cope with the masking? What does masking give you, and what does it take away?
Yeah, I think it's a real hard one for me, because, like you said, there's that constant kind of battle between masking up enough to be able to function and being your authentic self, right? So for me, this is still really live and still really fresh. What I have done lately is started to tell, I mean, I've told it on this live now, so anyone on this live now knows, but I've started to tell trusted humans about the fibro diagnosis, so that I've got people who will look out for me, and they will say, you need to sit down now, or should we go and sit over here? You're kind of doing that kind of stuff. And I think the masking is almost like necessary to be able to function and run a business, right? We have to be able to show up in whatever state we're in, whatever position we're in, for stuff that's like paying client work. But that doesn't necessarily have to be a negative thing, because, like you say, you finish that piece of work and you're like, oh my God, I feel brilliant. That went really well. I did a 2-hour training session yesterday and that went really well. But, there's still that kind of need to be like, right, come on then. I actually call it tits and teeth. So come on then, tits and teeth. Then you're ready to ready to go. But it is hard. So masking, it gives me that almost like ability to push that little bit more and show up, but it takes away that level of authenticity. But, I do try and tell people about it. Like, I ran an awesome session the other day and was like, you know what, I'm just a bit foggy today. I've just got the brain fog. And I couldn't get my rhythm in the session. I couldn't get the words out. I kept getting the words wrong. But they were really lovely. They were super accommodating. They were like, it was a brilliant session. Don't know what you're talking about. But some of that like vulnerability that you can just let in for yourself, that just means there's a tiny little bit less mask that you need to apply, means that then you can kind of come to it a bit better. And like you said, living your day in 90-minute compartments can be enough sometimes. And the same with me. If it's an hour session, I'll deliver for the hour and then I'll rest for 2 or whatever. But, it's trying to balance, isn't it? That piece of showing up versus being well. And it's a really, really hard balance.
Yeah, totally. And I think also there is the breakdown, there is doing that, but it's the recharge. It's the charging up.
Yes.
Versus the like downtime. Like I remember it was again a couple of years ago, wasn't it? We both spoke at Big Meet, and I said to you beforehand, like I need 2 days, at least 2 days after this. Because, but again, like I'm used to doing that. If I'm speaking on a big stage in terms of a big event, I know I need 2 days afterwards.
Yeah.
And very often the first day is I'm dealing with all of the messages and all of the feedback, great talk, or I get pages and pages and pages of messages like, this is also my story. This is also what I'm living with burnout. This is what I do with all of this. So kind of the day after is I'm kind of coming down because I've had to charge myself up to get there. I'm coming down, and then I want to be present and responding to these messages for people, but I will crash 2 days after. I'm just like can't function, can't move, body is just like total shutdown, can't do anything. This is just kind of where I need to take it. And again, I think having that awareness, although sometimes I'm buggered because I think I've put 2 days out, I don't quite crash, and then day 3 I'm like, I've got this workshop to do, and I'm like, oh my God.
I do that, but that's the whole planning thing, isn't it? Like you can't, it's inconsistent. You cannot plan for it as much as you try and have like restful days or pre-rest. Like I find that sometimes I'm a bit of like a slow processor. So for example, with last year's Geek Together, I was like, I am going to crash. And it took me 2 weeks before I had that final come down. Do you remember me saying to you? And it just wrecked me. But so there's slow processing, and then the come down, and then the physical stuff that I think it's just, there's no planning for it, because some days it might be 4 days, other days it might be nothing to a few hours to whatever.
And I remember us both being like, this is a miracle. Like, look at you haven't crashed. Like, how amazing is this? Right. We were literally celebrating it, weren't we? I was checking in with you every day, like, today, no, feel really good. Doing this stuff. Yes, I'm on the sofa, but this is really lovely, and this is really lovely. And we're like, okay, brilliant. And then you're like, I can't move. Like, it was literally, wasn't it? A couple of weeks later, it's like, no, it's got me.
Yeah, it's hit me. I'm done.
Damn it. So maybe that was a good one, right? Organise more events.
Yeah, just constantly be
constantly be at events. And that's the kind of thing. But I also think, and I think this is part of burnout, right? And again, we could see some comments. We'll come to some of these comments in a moment. But again, I think for lots of us, right, there's a huge difference between burnout, tiredness, and exhaustion.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Huge differences. And again, everything that I'm doing in terms of the awareness and education is about even just highlighting those differences. Right. We can feel exhausted. We can feel run down. We can feel tired. That does not mean it's burnout.
Yeah.
And some people can experience burnout and never live with any of these conditions. And some people can be living in this habitual burnout cycle and never end up with any of these conditions. And some people can be living in the habitual burnout cycle thinking they're never going to live with any of these conditions and end up like you and I a few years later. Which again is why, why we need these sorts of conversations. But I know, and I'll be interested on this one for you. I know I need the downtime now. I know I need to plan it. I know I need to take it. I know I need all of that kind of stuff. And at the same time, I know I could still mask up for 7 days a week, 52 weeks of the year, and just turn it all on and just keep going and going and going and going and going. And I know the impact that would be having on my body. And I know, and again, have done over the last kind of 9 months, I know I can push through the pain. I know I can put my face on and rock up and just be like, everything's fine. And it's like that in itself is still hard. So I have to, if I do not plan my downtime in advance, I know I will not take it. I just know I won't take it because I will just keep going. I will still, even all of these years later, my default is still stay switched on. And if the downtime is not in my diary, and if we haven't planned downtime as a family, and if we haven't planned downtime at a weekend, I will just keep going. And then when I do have a day off, that's when I get the biggest crash, because it's like, oh, like I needed this.
3 days ago and you let me down.
Like, no. So for you, do you think, would that still be your default if you didn't plan in the downtime?
Yeah, good question. Do you know what? I think even if you'd have asked me this end of last year when I was crashing, I'd have said no, I'd still push through. I think now I realize that if I push through, I will pay for it. And so I have stopped pushing through. So for example, I don't plan anything in the evenings anymore because I can't do it. I know I can't do it.
Same,
So why
same.
bother? You know, I'm just going to break myself. The most I'll ever do is I do a geek wine session every couple of months online, and I just sit here and chat because wine. And then, like, and at weekends now we have more empty weekends than we have full ones because I know I can't do it, and that's it. You know, and I think the way that I have become now is much more like aware of being able to have an actual life with my husband and my cats, as well as showing up for work. And so that's the kind of consequence I've got, or the choices I'm making is to do less and be okay with that. And I think that's been probably the bulk of this year, has been doing less and being okay with it. And that kind of
still, I suppose that's still conscious choice, right? So you're choosing the downtime, whereas actually if it were like if your diary next week was back to back Monday to Friday, would you on Sunday or Monday or whatever think I need to cancel some of that, change some of that, or I need to move it? Or would you think, it's 1 week, I've got to push through till Friday?
Yeah, exactly that. So yeah, I think if I had a diary that ended up like that, I would push through. And that is the challenge, because once it's booked in my diary, then it's immovable. Like that's something I can't change. And that's the challenge. Although I have got better, like this last probably couple of months, I've got better at saying, do you know what, we need to move this. Can we move it over here? Or can we, you know, swap it for next week or whatever? Which I have got better at, I will say. But yeah, you're right. If there's you know, if it happens to be, you know, some awful diary mistake has happened and I've got a full week, 5 days a week, then I would push through it, but it would break me. It would massively break me. I mean, I think we spoke about this, but I think in reality, I'm doing maybe 2.5 days a week at the moment because I just can't do any more. And that internal battle with myself is horrendous for that. You know, my constant like yardstick is, well, 5 days a week, it's got to be 5 days a week. And of course I'm constantly failing that because I'm not capable of doing that right now. But actually I'd rather show up properly for 2.5 days than spread myself so thin and not be able to show up properly on 5 of them. So it's a mindset thing, isn't it? It's a really hard mindset to get into when you have to really pay attention to what you actually can do.
Yeah, and acceptance, isn't it? Because again, like, we're both still very ambitious, very driven. We both want to make changes. We both want to be making an impact. We both want to be doing great work. We, you know, that's what drives us both. And yet when it's like body's not working, brain's not working, like cannot even respond to an email.
Yarp.
And yet there is still part of your brain that and then that's where some of the shame and guilt can come from, right? Because that's where the inner voice is like, well, you know, what do you think you did? Like, you know, 10 years ago you'd have been doing this, and 10 years ago you'd been doing, and it's like, right, today I can't even compose an email. And I've had days, I know you have as well, like, I've literally been sat in front of the laptop, like, I just need to reply to the emails. And 3 years later, I'm still, 3 hours later, it probably is 3 years. They're probably some of my emails. I'm very good at this now. He does all of that for me. But again, I think it's also for me, I don't know if it's the same for you. For me, it's understanding like the tasks and activities that also give me energy. So I've kind of, you know, just joked about the emails there. Admin does not give me anything. This type of conversation, you know, I said to you before we came live, right, I've done some YouTube videos this morning. I've done a couple of these this week. These sorts of conversations, right, talking, training, delivering, whether I'm on stages, whether I'm on lives, whether I'm on podcast interviews, webinars, this kind of stuff energizes me and really kind of lifts me up. But if you say to me, you've got 50 emails that you need to respond to, I'm honest, I'm going to be like that in front of my laptop, right? Because it also it takes a different energy for me to do that. It's a different energy that I need to find, firstly, to respond to them, but also then to be able to kind of process and actually, have I written that right? Like all of that kind of stuff. Like I said, I have amazing admin to help me with all of that brilliance. Because otherwise it wouldn't get done. So do you think you're the same in terms of tasks that like you could just do regardless, right? Even if you were rock bottom, that's a thing that you could show up and do that day if you wanted to. Not that you necessarily had to, but that's a thing you could rock up and do that day. Whereas if I'm like, Michelle, let's get your invoices done today, you're like, no.
Yeah. And I think part of that is like, knowing when you're in flow, isn't it? Like that flow state where actually this is working, this is really good, I'm smashing it out. And so I think there's definitely that kind of stuff where you can kind of almost balance it's like the product mix of your day, isn't it? The product mix of your day is kind of balanced and working in the right way. But yeah, the admin energy sucks. And I see Amy's just put it in the chat as well. The admin energy is awful.
It's horrible. Get an assistant, Amy.
Yeah, do it.
Outsource, delegate, let it all go. All of the crap, let it go.
Let it go.
Which is why, because I hadn't even said, because my lovely team don't have access to my StreamYard, because if anybody, so we are going through, this is streaming via StreamYard to get us onto, you can't do lives directly on LinkedIn anyway, because it's such a brilliant platform. So you need a third-party platform to stream in order to go onto LinkedIn. So we're using this thing, but there's no point anybody else having the access, because you don't get a password, right? It emails you the code for you to put the code directly into the system. So this is the one system, just one, that I have total control over. I promised Michelle at 6 o'clock this morning that I was going to send her the code for this session. And Michelle got this like an hour, like 10 minutes before we were due to go on. Because I'm just like, in my head, I knew I was doing it at 6 o'clock this morning.
Yeah.
But then I wasn't in front of my laptop. I was just like, yeah, I'll send you the code when I get in front of my laptop. Then I got busy and got distracted. So this is why I'm not allowed in front of my own admin. It's just, it shouldn't be allowed.
Word.
So yeah. Right, Hartley, anything you want to, well, should we see if we've got any questions? If you've got questions, peeps, that you want to ask, let us know some questions. We'll do these. And then Michelle, I'll come to you just before we finish, like final thoughts for burnout, any of that sort of stuff. Let's see what people have got. So if you've got any questions that you want to ask about anything, pop it in the chat for us. Where did we go? Let's have a look from the last one that we asked.
Got up to Alex Stroud and Fibro, I think.
Yes. Let's have a look. So yeah, so Alex, yes. So have fibro brought on by work, personal trauma, yes. I mean, flare-ups are hard. I mean, I don't have fibro. I live my mum has, my best friend does. I see it. We experience a lot of similarities, don't we, in terms of what our body goes through. I get pain in very, very different places. So I don't get it in the joints necessarily like you do, but the exhaustion of it, the brain fog, all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, all goes
managing
alongside
different things in different ways, aren't we?
Well, you saw mine. Do you remember when we were at Madonna in America and you saw mine and you were like, oh my God, it was like someone just pulled the plug out of you? Because I just sort of went, and that was like a proper fibro, like power down, I'm done.
It was. I mean, that was instant, wasn't it? So we'd gone to see. So again, for those of you, if you don't know, we are 2 of the Texas 4. So 4 of us. I'm going to keep saying that because apparently some people don't know who the Texas 4 are. Which I just so Texas 4 are the 2 of us, Sam Eaton and Kirsty Baggs Morgan, and we've gone to Work Human in Austin, Texas. We found out that same weekend, Madonna was, I've always wanted to see Madonna live. I've never, ever been able to get tickets. And there were tickets available to see Madonna. So we'd gone out to see Madonna. We all knew we were going to be knackered anyway. We'd had this long flight, but we were all really, really excited for it. Yeah. And we're kind of dancing. We're all given, like, we're not going to stay until the end because she was on till like stupid o'clock.
Oh, ridiculous.
We've given ourselves a cut-off point anyway. Kirsty and I were, Kirsty Baggs Morgan was dancing.
She was. Actual fact.
Kirsty Baggs, probably because nobody told her to. She was just doing it.
Yes.
So me and Kirsty kind of dancing. Then there was Sam, and I literally just sort of turned around and I was like, I said to Kate, like, we're going to have to go. She's like, what? I was like, we just need to take it. And it was, oddly, you were exactly right. It was like someone had just pulled the plug out and Michelle was just sat at Madonna like that. And I was like, we've got to get, like, we just have to get her home. Like, we just have to get her home. And Kirsty's like, she could do another hour. I'm like, no, she's done. Like, she's like, oven's done, like, you know, electricity's gone, we just need to get her home. And again, and that again, but I suppose again, if I had not spotted that and we didn't know each other well enough to be able to do that, the knock-on impact, if we'd stayed another hour until the time that we were going to leave, that could have had a huge impact on you for the entire week, right? It was a big week.
Yeah.
And that could have had a huge impact on you from there, couldn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Right. Pauline says, listening to you both heightens the severity of burnout. I thought I was falling apart, and since starting this journey with you, Kelly, I now get it. Thank you for sharing stories. It helps to figure out working days. Right, exactly that. Right, we just need, and sometimes it is a day by day, isn't it? Natasha says she works with mums with maternal burnout due to the lack of connection, support, and care. How can anyone rest and recover when there's no space for healing or rest? The village is non-existent. Natasha, that's a really difficult one as well. I mean, I mean, I wouldn't have said it was maternal. I wouldn't have said it was maternal, but I had really, really bad postnatal depression after my twins. And it, you know, it was hugely lonely, and again, kind of multiple births help other, you know, I did have family support network, but that was huge. Again, like you've got to find your people, right? Whether it's, I think whether it's online connection, whether it is anything, you do need that community. You need that group of people to be able to say, like, I'm broken today, like, please help me. And to be able to take that through. But yeah, I mean, I'm not just gonna say for young ones, because I think for burnout is hard for all of us at any stage of life, whether it's impacting us mentally, emotionally, physically, all three, whether it's impacting our work, our relationships, our life, our bodies, our mental capacity, whether it's causing us chronic illness. Like, burnout is hard for all of us. And I don't think we can say it's kind of, you know, I can't say it's any worse for me than it is for Michelle because I've got kids, right? Or, well, you know, we live in different places, so it must have been easier for me than it was for, like, there is no comparison with it. Burnout is burnout. It's horrific, whoever it impacts. But I think, we do need that community, right?
Absolutely. And I think that's part of the thing that I love about us. You know, even as an example, last Thursday when we were at Laura's event, we constantly had an eye out for each other. Like, you'd had enough and you were like, I'm not queuing up for lunch. I haven't got time. I don't want to do it. It's too much faff. So I then went and got your lunch. You know, we were keeping an eye on each other constantly. Like, even when you were doing your 5-day of the other week, I was constantly checking in on you, like, how are you today? How are you doing? What's happening? Like that is really powerful. And I think, you know, I've certainly said this before, but for me, the cure for burnout is connection, right? So find your people, connect back to yourself, connect back to your family, connect back to where you live. Like, all of that really brought me back. So yeah, it's an interesting one, that connection space, isn't it?
Yeah, huge. Jenny says burnout's absolutely real. It doesn't wait for permission. It certainly does not.
Yes.
It will, like, if it's coming to get you, it's coming to get you. It's literally not waiting for you to slow down. It will force that shut, definitely. Rob says he does a lot with color energy, resonated with him a lot in that, really enjoys playing with it completely. The opposite energy zone to help in his default recharge zone. Thank you very much. Joanna says, again, I have fibro, absolutely understand the need to mask, but it leaves totally exhausted. Like, masking takes energy anyway, right? We've said this many times before. Masking takes a lot of energy, right? It's that mental energy. It's that you literally got to think about everything, right? You've got to think about how turned on you are, how dialed up you are. You're kind of almost hypersensitive to everything, aren't you? And that in itself is exhausting. Without anything, like, even if, like, even without fibro, even without burnout, even without chronic illness, masking is exhausting. Add anything 100%. Else into it, and it's awful, isn't it? Awful. LinkedIn news. I still like LinkedIn news. I need a name.
I think it's Emma A.
Oh, okay. Hey, Emma. It just is very hard. I'm like, we must have been talking about something there. Jacqueline says, I hit a wall in my last role. I told my manager I just couldn't keep up at a constant breakneck pace. She was sympathetic, but told me there was nothing she could do. And Jacqueline, firstly, I'm sorry to hear that. And I had a conversation with somebody yesterday, actually, and we were talking about, like, what do you do if you do ask for help and you just get told we can't do anything about it? And I think we have to be going back to people, because there is always something, whether it's coaching, whether it's support, whether it's time off, whether it's listening, additional resources, additional support, whatever it is that you need. I am done with hearing that people are talking to their managers or leaders and being told there's nothing that we can do about it. That is absolute crap. There is always something. And if they're not prepared to do it, speak to those of us that know, like, what do I do in this situation? And we'll help and give you everything that you need from there, because there is always something.
And for Jacqueline's benefit, I had exactly the same. I knew I couldn't carry on. And I remember going to my boss and saying, I can't do this big global meeting. Can I have your permission not to go? And he's like, no, you can't, you need to go. So I went off sick because I was like, but I suppose the positive of that is I went off sick and I took some time to recover, which was the start of my burnout, period of time off, but it wasn't enough. But I feel you. And when I read Jacqueline's comment, I was like, oh, that
it's hard.
resonates. It's hard. Yeah.
Oh. Sending you all the love, Jacqueline, and hopefully you can get heard somewhere. Pauline says, totally with you, work towards avoiding vulnerability. I think that comes from fear of judgment. Again, that's a big thing. That's why we literally only just last week asked for help at an event. Because I didn't want to be judged. Same with Michelle and the stick, right? I don't want to stick, don't want to be judged, don't want to be asking about it. And we do have to get over that. So we think this is Emma. She says, it's hard when you're in the process of building your own business. It's a hard line to step back without feeling guilty. Yeah. And again, I don't know about you, Michelle, like we've got to give ourselves permission to not feel guilty.
Yes, absolutely.
Like Michelle working 2.5 days a week, we need permission to just say, that's my lot, right? I work reduced hours every single week. And I'm not even going to say reduced hours, right? I have a different work schedule now.
Yeah.
I've given myself that to be okay. Apparently wine is the answer.
Always.
That must have been a response to your geek week. There we go. So now we're back with Amy. So I feel you on the admin energy. I find it the hardest to find that sort of motivation. Yeah, it's just horrible for me. Pauline says, do you know if burnout impacts more women than men? Pauline, I'm asked this a lot, and I'm going to do a session on this for us in the Academy alumni as well. The stats will tell us that burnout is impacting women, or the burnout rates, the burnout is higher in women than it is in men. And I think I saw an article, I don't know if it was in the Times this week or last week, and there was another article last week that said that burnout is impacting more women than it is men. However, I think actually what I'm seeing, certainly with the men that I have coached, is actually men are being prompted to seek help before it gets to the point of burnout. Whereas many more women wait until it's at the point of burnout before they ask for help. So I think there is that correlation. What I also want to see, and I don't know who would do this, genuinely don't know who would do this, but I also wonder if there is a correlation between, again, the rising increases in men's mental health and suicide in men and burnout.
Yeah.
Now, there's nobody correlating those stats, but for me, if you look at those stats and if you were to put them together, I think if we look at the rise in burnout, but we're saying actually it's only rising for women, it's not as much for men, I wonder if some of that gap is being taken by some of these suicide rates. Now, there's no data to support that. That's my view. Again, with this is what I do every day. But I wonder if it is that. But again, I also see the men that I have coached have got support before it's become burnout, whereas the women I've coached mostly wait until it is burnout before they get the help. So I think we've got that. But the stats will tell us burnout is impacting more women than it is men.
Yeah.
David has said, how do you deal with last minute meetings being thrown in when you've allocated some nice focus time? Decline them, David. Decline. I had a brilliant EA. Michelle may have something else to add on this one, but I had a brilliant EA in my last few years in corporate, and she would literally decline anything if there was not enough notice, so it didn't have an agenda or it didn't say why I was the person that was needed at the meeting. And her response would be, your failure to prioritize your time does not make it a priority for Kelly.
Yeah,
that continually stuck with me. So I don't know. It might put you on the unemployment line, David, but maybe give it a try. Michelle, what would you suggest for how would you deal with last minute meetings?
Decline. So nowadays I don't have them because I've got an EA and I use Calendly, which automatically will block out time in my diary. But in corporate life, I would push back and decline stuff, although I did still have 8-hour days of meetings. And I do think if you've got time in your diary and you've marked it as time in your diary, then it's time in your diary and people can't book over it. Like if they book over it, then they need to be like some kind of like disaster that means I have to like drop something else. But and it's one of the things I talk about in coaching a lot is get people to block out time in their diaries and treat it as sacrosanct, because you cannot function if you don't have that downtime.
We need that protected time. Awesome. Thank you. Natasha said she's building community that's lacking. Good luck, Natasha. Amy said key is definitely connection, but it's so hard when your default is to protect yourself from close relationships because you feel bad from not always having the energy or capacity. Amy, getting we get that, and I think that's That's why Michelle and I have the relationship that we have, right? Because I think we've both come into it, but we have, haven't we? I think we've both had friendships, relationships, work relationships, all of that stuff where we've given a lot more than we have received, firstly, anyway, which is no good for our energy levels. We have been in kind of relationships where we have had to protect, because if we do show up as our true self, we won't get it anyway. So there's all of that kind of stuff that's happening. Whereas actually, I think from day one with you and I, it has literally been like, this is who I am. Take it or leave it. And even before we went to Texas, right? And I remember like putting in the chat, but then we were all able to say, because I was like, right, this is what I'm going to need. If we're away in Texas for a week with each other, this is what I'm going to need. And if you see me go off on my own, this is why. But I'm going to need this every single day for myself. And then we were all able to say, this is what I need every day for myself. And we all ensured that every single one of us got what we needed for that entire trip. So awesome.
And we do the same when we hang out, don't we? We're exactly the same. And we'll do the same when we're away for Kirsty's event this month. Oh my God, I can say next month. This month.
It is.
We'll do the same.
2 weeks today. 2 weeks today.
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah, exciting. We're going to be the Floating Five, though. Although Toby says that's not a great name, but we'll see. We'll see how we go.
Toby Schmoby.
Yeah. Rob says that's interesting. It's often said that men are less likely to seek or ask for help. Again, on that one, Rob, a lot of the men that I've worked with will all tell me they've been prompted by other people in their life, mostly women. So either women CEOs, women directors, women managers, wives, girlfriends, partners, whoever, that said, you need to go speak to Kelly. They've come to speak to me. We've done what is needed. But again, the flip side of that is lots of women have been told, you need to go speak to Kelly and this is what she's going to help you with. And we just carry on regardless for years. I had one client that came to work with me last year. She'd literally been following me on socials for 8 years. And one woman actually who's first saw me speak in 2014 and only started to work with me 2 years ago. Literally started to work with me 2 years ago. So like sometimes it's taking over a decade for people to come and ask for the help. Natasha says, agree, men seek help when they notice a decline. Yes, women continue ignoring the signs. Absolutely. And Natasha said, thanks for a brilliant live. You're very welcome. Thank you. We're going to be there. We can chat for an hour. Michelle and I could literally talk until Christmas. We're going to stop there. So it's been an hour and Michelle's got other stuff to do. And we're going to stick, well, I'm going to say we stick to time. We're already over. Michelle, what do you want to leave people with? And then we'll end.
Ooh, I feel like if you're going through it, you're not going through it alone. And you are the most important thing. Like your health, your well-being, your being able to show up is the most important thing. So if you're not looking after yourself, make that your priority for today, because no one else is going to look after you the way that you should be looking after yourself.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you very, very much. And I'm just going to, I say this a lot in all of my stuff, right? But every single one of you watching this, and again, if you know other people, right, when it comes to this, like, you know, you're normal. Every single one of us knows our normal. Michelle said, right, I started to get some of these health issues. I started to get some health, all of this stuff. We all know our normal. At the point that we start to move away from our normal, mentally, emotionally, physically, that's when we need to do something, right? Do not wait. It might not be burnout, but it might be a symptom or a sign of something else. As soon as you start to step away from your normal, that's when you need to do, we could do the preventative stuff before that. But at that point, that's when we need to start making changes. We can, absolutely, I'm going to literally say this until I take my last breath. We can prevent burnout. We can literally prevent
ignoring
burnout.
The signs.
And just so anything that you know that is not your normal, that's when you need to go and start to make the changes. So thank you very much. Thanks, Hartles. It's been lovely to see your face again.
I have loved it.
2 weeks. It's going to be amazing. Thank you to everybody for joining us. I'm going to be back because this is my usual Thursday, although I might have moved them to Mondays. Anyway, I think I've moved them to Mondays. I haven't got my admin and I haven't got my diary open. But there's live every week. Sometimes I have a guest. Sometimes it's just me rambling for an hour about a topic. But the next live I am going to do, whether it's Monday or Thursday, I'll find out when I get into my diary. But the next one that we're going to do is actually about dissociation, right? How do we, I suppose, as part of this kind of follow-up for what we've been talked about today, right? But actually, what causes us? Why do we? How are we able to dissociate kind of our body and our brain and keep ourselves pushing it to the point of burnout anyway? So that's what I'm going to be covering in our next live. So thank you very much for joining me. If you've enjoyed it, please keep sharing, right? Because we know algorithms are crap. Please keep liking, sharing, commenting. If you think anybody else might find this useful, please give it a share. Thanks very much for joining us. Hartles, lovely to see you as always. Thank you
And
very much.
you, thank you for having me. See you.
Bye, bye, bye.